The rain poured down like an endless sheet of glass that night, soaking the cracked sidewalks and filling the gutters with rushing streams of dirty water. Streetlights flickered weakly against the storm, throwing pale halos across the deserted campus road. In the middle of it all trudged Daniel, a 21-year-old university student, his thin backpack clinging to his shoulders, and his cheap sneakers squelching with every step. His clothes were damp, his stomach empty, and his heart heavy with the kind of exhaustion that went beyond the physical. Life had been hard on him, too hard for someone so young. His father had passed away from illness years ago, and his mother, battling 2 jobs and health issues of her own, couldn't send him much. Every bill, every meal, every textbook felt like another mountain to climb, and tonight he wondered if he had the strength left to keep going. But little did Daniel know that his life was about to change, not by his own strength, but by the kindness of a stranger who would see in him what the world had overlooked. Sometimes life tests us to our breaking point, only to remind us that miracles come in unexpected ways, through people we never imagined meeting. Backhand index pointing right before we dive deeper, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that restore faith in humanity, please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel Kindness Tales. Together, let's keep spreading these heart-touching stories. Daniel's night began with rejection. He had just finished another shift at the campus cafe where he worked part-time, only to be told by his boss that they would have to cut his hours. The cafe wasn't earning enough, and student staff like him were the first to feel the impact. He smiled politely, nodded, and said it was okay, but inside, his world was collapsing. Rent was due next week. His electricity bill was already past due. And in his wallet? A crumpled $5 bill, that was all. For food, he had been stretching instant noodles and stale bread for days. He could almost feel his body weaken from hunger, but pride kept him from asking for help. The rain made the night colder, and Daniel had nowhere to go but his small, cramped apartment at the edge of town. As he walked past the brightly lit restaurants, his stomach twisted painfully at the smell of hot food wafting through the air. Couples laughed inside, families shared meals, and friends clinked glasses. He pressed his hands deeper into his pockets, pretending not to notice, pretending not to ache with envy. That's when he saw it, a restaurant with a warm glow spilling out from its wide glass windows, a place so far beyond his means it felt like another world. The sign above read Montgomery's Fine Dining, one of the city's most exclusive establishments. Daniel had heard about it in whispers among students, a place where millionaires dined, where one meal cost more than his weekly groceries. He looked away quickly, ashamed for even staring, and was about to continue walking when fate intervened. Through the window, seated alone at a table near the entrance, was an older man in a crisp suit. His hair was silver, his posture straight, his presence commanding without effort. He looked out of place among the chatter of the wealthy patrons, yet somehow completely at ease. His eyes wandered out the window, landing on Daniel just for a moment. Daniel quickly averted his gaze, embarrassed at being caught staring, but it was too late. The man had seen the soaked student, the hungry look he tried to hide, the weariness in his walk. Moments later, the door to the restaurant opened, and the man stepped out, holding a sleek black umbrella. "Are you lost, young man?" he asked gently, though Daniel froze, unsure if he was even allowed to answer someone like him. His voice carried authority but not arrogance, and his eyes, piercing yet kind, studied Daniel with an intensity that felt unnerving. Daniel stammered something about heading home, trying to brush it off, but the man extended the umbrella toward him. "You look like you could use a meal. Come inside." "My treat." Daniel's pride flared immediately. He shook his head, muttering that he couldn't accept charity, but the man insisted with a quiet firmness that left no room for argument. And so, trembling with a mixture of shame and gratitude, Daniel followed him back into the restaurant, feeling every eye turn toward his soaked clothes and tired frame. The warmth hit him first, the soft glow of chandeliers, the scent of freshly baked bread, the sound of cutlery on fine china. For a moment, Daniel felt like he was trespassing in a world that didn't belong to him. The man, whose name Daniel soon learned was Richard Montgomery, ordered without hesitation. Soup, steak, bread, vegetables, and dessert, all placed in front of Daniel, who could hardly believe it. He hesitated with the first spoonful, afraid someone might stop him, but when the taste of hot food hit his tongue, tears stung his eyes. He ate hungrily, and Richard simply watched, not with pity, but with a kind of quiet satisfaction, as if feeding Daniel was more meaningful than any $1 million deal he had ever made. As the night went on, Daniel's story spilled out in fragments. He hadn't planned to share, but Richard asked questions with genuine interest, not judgment. He told him about his father's death, his mother's struggles, the weight of bills and studies crushing him. He admitted that some days, he wondered if continuing school was even worth it. Richard listened silently, his hands folded, his expression unreadable. When Daniel finished, the old man leaned back and sighed. "I see myself in you," Richard finally said. 50 years ago, I was the boy standing outside restaurants I couldn't afford, hungry and tired, wondering if I'd ever make it out of poverty. And then, one man, a stranger, gave me a chance. He didn't just give me food. He gave me hope. The word struck Daniel harder than anything else that night. Here was a man worth millions, a man who owned the very restaurant they sat in, telling him that once upon a time, he had been just as lost. What followed was something Daniel would never forget. Over the next weeks, Richard became more than a stranger who had fed him. He became a mentor, a guide, and most importantly, a friend. He began inviting Daniel to lunches, giving him books on business, teaching him lessons about resilience, discipline, and vision. He never handed him money outright, but he gave him opportunities, small jobs, responsibilities, introductions to people who could help. He taught him that success wasn't about shortcuts, but about believing in one's own worth even when the world didn't. Slowly, Daniel's life began to shift. He found better work, earned enough to pay his rent and bills, and even started saving a little. His grades improved as Richard encouraged him to balance his studies with practical life lessons. But more than the financial help, it was the emotional strength Richard gave him that mattered most. For the first time in years, Daniel didn't feel invisible. He felt seen, valued, and believed in. Then came the day Richard revealed something that left Daniel stunned. At a private dinner, he admitted he had no children, no family left to inherit his fortune. "I've spent a lifetime building wealth," Richard said, his voice softer than usual, "but wealth means nothing without purpose. People gave me kindness when I had nothing, and now it's my turn to give back. I want to help young people like you. I want to invest not just in businesses, but in lives." Daniel couldn't hold back tears. He realized then that the night he thought his world was falling apart was actually the night his destiny had been rewritten. A chance encounter in the rain had led him to a man who not only saved him from hunger but set him on a path toward becoming someone capable of helping others. Years later, Daniel would graduate with honors, launch a successful startup, and dedicate a portion of his earnings to helping struggling students. At every milestone, Richard was there, sometimes in the background, sometimes at the front, always proud, always supportive. Their bond was deeper than friendship. It was as if fate had crossed their paths so they could heal each other. Daniel had found a father figure, and Richard had found the family he thought he had lost. Backhand index pointing right. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Tales. Your support helps us continue bringing real, emotional, and inspiring stories that remind the world that compassion is priceless. Speech balloon special request, please comment below. What's the kindest act a stranger has ever done for you? Your story might inspire someone else today. And so, Daniel's journey reminds us all. Sometimes, in the darkest moments, when the rain won't stop and the road feels too heavy to walk, kindness appears like a light in the storm. A meal, a word, a chance, it may seem small, but it can change an entire life. Just as it did for a broke student saved by a 68-year-old millionaire, whose act of kindness will echo for generations to come.